the smirk on his face. That's what I remember most about that moment. My stepson Derek sat across the conference table in the law office, his wife Ashley beside him, both of them barely containing their excitement. Their attorney, some slick-haired man named Brandon Mitchell, adjusted his Rolex and smiled at me like I was a confused old woman who'd wandered into the wrong building. Maybe they thought I was. Maybe they thought the past 42 years had made me soft. They had no idea what was coming. But I should start from the beginning, shouldn't I? 3 months earlier, I thought I had everything figured out. I was Margaret Thornton, 65 years old, and I'd just lost the love of my life. Robert and I had been married for 42 years. We'd built a beautiful life together in our home in Westchester County, just north of New York City. The house was a classic colonial we'd bought back in 1983 for $180,000. Now it was worth close to $3.2 million. Robert and I met when I was 23, fresh out of nursing school. He was a widower with a 6-year-old son, Derek. Robert's first wife had died in a car accident, and he was struggling to raise the boy alone while building his accounting firm. I fell in love with both of them. Or so I thought. Those early years were good. I worked night shifts at Mount Kisco Medical Center so I could be home when Derek got out of school. I made his lunches, helped with his homework, attended every soccer game and school play. Robert always said I saved them both. "You gave us a family again," he'd tell me, holding my hand across the dinner table. Derek seemed to appreciate it too, back then. He called me Mom by the time he was 8. He'd hug me goodnight and tell me about his day. I thought we had something real. But children grow up, don't they? And sometimes they become people you don't recognize. The change started in high school. Derek fell in with a crowd of wealthy kids whose parents gave them everything. Suddenly, our comfortable upper-middle-class life wasn't enough. He wanted designer clothes, expensive sneakers, a car the moment he turned 16. "All my friends have BMWs," he'd complain. Robert, being the devoted father, bought him one, a used 3 Series, but still, it cost $28,000. I remember standing in the kitchen when Robert told me about it. "Don't you think that's excessive?" I asked. "He's 16. He should learn the value of money." Robert kissed my forehead. "He's my son, Margaret. I want him to have what I never did." I should have seen the pattern forming right there. College was worse. Derek got into NYU, which cost Robert $65,000 a year. When Derek wanted to live in a luxury apartment in the village instead of the dorms, Robert paid for that too. Another $2,800 a month. "He's focusing on his studies," Robert would say. He shouldn't have to worry about money. But Derek wasn't focusing on his studies. He was partying, traveling, buying rounds for his friends at expensive bars. I knew because Robert's credit card statements would come, and I'd see the charges. Bottle service at clubs, flights to Miami, designer shopping sprees. I tried talking to Robert about it. "Honey, you're not helping him. You're enabling him. You're not his real mother," Derek said once, overhearing our conversation. He was 20 at the time, home for Christmas break. "You don't get to tell my dad how to raise me." That hurt. After 15 years of being his mom, I was suddenly just not his real mother. Robert defended him, of course. "He didn't mean it like that, Margaret. He's just stressed about finals." But Derek did mean it, and it got worse. After college, Derek moved back home. He was supposedly looking for jobs in finance, but mostly he slept until noon and went out with friends at night. This went on for 8 months. "Maybe we should set some boundaries," I suggested to Robert one evening, like a timeline for him to find work, or at least contribute to household expenses. "He's going through a tough time," Robert said. "The job market is competitive." Then Derek met Ashley. She was a 24-year-old aspiring influencer with 63,000 Instagram followers and no actual job. She moved into our house within 3 months of meeting Derek. I came home from my shift at the hospital one day to find her clothes in the guest room. "I hope you don't mind," Derek said casually. Ashley's lease was up, and we thought it made sense. I did mind. I minded very much. But Robert just shrugged. "It's temporary, Margaret. Just until they find a place." Temporary turned into 2 years. 2 years of Ashley treating our home like a hotel. She'd leave her makeup scattered across the bathroom counter, her clothes piled on the floor. She'd eat the groceries I bought without replacing them. Once, I came home to find she'd rearranged my living room furniture because the energy was off. "Could you please ask before making changes to our home?" I said, trying to stay calm. "Our home?" Ashley laughed. "I thought this was Derek's family home. I'm family now too." She wasn't family. She and Derek weren't even engaged. But then they were. Derek proposed with a $45,000 ring that Robert bought. I know because I saw the receipt. The wedding was at a vineyard in the Hamptons. Robert paid for everything. The venue alone was $85,000. The total cost came to $220,000. "Don't you think this is too much?" I asked Robert as the bills came in. "We should be thinking about retirement." "I have plenty saved," Robert assured me. "Besides, a man only sees his son get married once." I wanted to point out that I'd sacrificed plenty over the years, too. I'd put off my own dreams of going back to school for my master's degree so we could save for Derek's education. I'd worked extra shifts to help pay for the house renovations Robert wanted. But saying any of that would make me sound petty, wouldn't it? After the wedding, Derek and Ashley finally moved out, into a condo in White Plains. Robert gave them $150,000 for the down payment. Things were quiet for a while. Robert retired at 68, and we started enjoying our life together. We traveled to Europe, took cruises, spent time at our lake house in the Adirondacks that we'd bought years ago for $340,000. Then Robert got sick. It started with fatigue. He'd want a nap after breakfast, couldn't walk as far as he used to. I made him see his doctor. Tests revealed he had an aggressive form of lymphoma. The next 18 months were brutal. Chemotherapy, radiation, clinical trials. I took a leave of absence from the hospital to care for him full-time. I was with him for every appointment, every treatment, every bad night. Derek and Ashley visited twice, once for an hour on Thanksgiving, once for 20 minutes on Christmas. "We're so busy," Ashley would say whenever I called to ask if they could visit. "Derek's business is really taking off." Derek had started some kind of consulting company that, as far as I could tell, did nothing and had no clients. But Robert was proud anyway. He'd added Derek to his investment accounts as a joint owner to help manage things while he was sick. He'd also updated his life insurance policies, adding Derek as the primary beneficiary on one of his policies worth $850,000. "It's important that Derek is taken care of," Robert told me. "You understand, don't you? You have your own retirement from the hospital." I did have my retirement. My pension was $3,400 a month, and I'd saved about $280,000 in my 401k. It was enough to live on, but it wasn't anywhere near what Robert had accumulated. Robert died on a Tuesday morning in June. I was holding his hand. Derek was in the Hamptons for a long weekend with Ashley. He made it back in time for the funeral, at least. At the service, Derek cried appropriately. He gave a eulogy about what a great father Robert had been, how much he'd taught him about integrity and hard work. Ashley posted a tasteful black and white photo of herself at the funeral on Instagram with the caption, "Family is everything." I thought the grief might bring us together. I was wrong. The day after the funeral, Derek showed up at the house with Ashley and their attorney, Brandon Mitchell. "We need to talk about the estate," Derek said, sitting down at my kitchen table without being invited. "The will is being read next week at Mr. Patterson's office," I said. Mr. Patterson had been Robert's attorney for 30 years. "I know," Derek said. "But I wanted to give you a heads up so there are no surprises." Brandon Mitchell opened his briefcase and pulled out documents. "Mrs. Thornton, I've reviewed your late husband's estate planning documents. You should be aware that Derek is the primary beneficiary on most assets." "Most?" I asked. "The investment accounts, which total approximately $1 million, are jointly owned with Derek and will transfer to him automatically. The life insurance policy for $850,000 names Derek as the primary beneficiary. The lake house is titled in both Robert and Derek's names, making Derek the sole owner upon Robert's death." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "When did all this happen?" "Over the past 2 years," Brandon said smoothly. "Your husband updated his estate plan several times while he was ill. I have all the documents here if you'd like to review them." "Robert wouldn't do this," I said. "We talked about our plans. The house was supposed to be mine, and Derek would inherit after I passed. People change their minds when they face mortality, Ashley said, examining her manicured nails. Robert wanted to make sure his blood son was taken care of. That phrase, his blood son. Like 42 years of being a mother meant nothing. The main residence here in Westchester, Brandon continued, is titled jointly between Robert and Derek. So technically, I own half this house, Derek interrupted. And I'm going to need to sell it. Sell it? I stared at him. This is my home. I've lived here for 42 years. You'll get your half of the proceeds, Derek said. The house is worth about $3.2 million now, so you'll walk away with $1.6 million. That's plenty for you to buy a nice condo somewhere. Somewhere smaller, Ashley added helpfully. You don't need all this space anyway. I couldn't breathe. This couldn't be happening. Robert promised me I could stay in this house for the rest of my life. Where's that in writing? Brandon asked. Because what I have in writing is a deed showing joint ownership. Derek stood up. Look, Margaret, I don't want this to get ugly, but Ashley and I are planning to start a family, and we need the equity from this house. We'll give you 60 days to find a place. That's more than fair. Fair? I could feel my voice shaking. I raised you. I gave up everything for you. You were paid back, Derek said coldly. Dad took care of you for 42 years. You lived in this house rent-free. You got to enjoy his money while he was alive. Now it's time for his actual family to inherit what's his. They left me sitting at that kitchen table, surrounded by sympathy cards and casserole dishes from neighbors who'd come to pay their respects. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went through every file in Robert's office. The deed to the house did show joint ownership with Derek, dated from 2 years ago. The investment account statements showed Derek as joint owner. The life insurance policy beneficiary form had Derek's name. But then I found something else. Hidden in the back of Robert's desk drawer was a folder labeled Estate Planning, Original. Inside were older versions of documents. A will from 10 years ago that left everything to me, with Derek inheriting only after my death. Notes in Robert's handwriting about establishing trusts to protect me. And there was something else, a leather journal I'd never seen before. I opened it. The entries started about 3 years ago. Robert's handwriting, increasingly shaky as his illness progressed. Derek called again today asking for money. He says his business needs capital, but I know he's been gambling. Found out about his poker debts from Paul at the club, $85,000. Had to pay it off so they wouldn't hurt him. My hands trembled as I turned the pages. Derek brought that attorney Mitchell to the house. Said I needed to update my estate plan for tax purposes. He kept pushing papers in front of me, telling me where to sign. I was so tired from the chemo, I could barely read them. Ashley kept saying I needed to protect Derek's inheritance from estate taxes. I don't think that's what's happening. I kept reading, tears streaming down my face. I tried to talk to Margaret about it, but Derek said she'd try to cut him out. Said she never really loved me, just wanted my money. I don't believe that, but he's my son. He wouldn't lie to me, would he? God, I'm so confused. The medications make it hard to think. The last entry was dated 2 weeks before Robert died. I think I made a terrible mistake. I was going through the papers Derek had me sign. He's on all my accounts now. I tried to call Patterson to fix it, but I'm too weak. Can't let Margaret find out what I've done. She'll think I didn't love her. I loved her more than anything. I got confused. Derek kept telling me she had her own money, that she'd be fine, that he was my blood and blood comes first. Why can't I think straight anymore? I closed the journal and sobbed. Robert hadn't betrayed me intentionally. He'd been manipulated while he was dying, scared and weak, and unable to think clearly because of the cancer and the medications. Derek had taken advantage of his own father's illness. The next day, I called Mr. Patterson, Robert's longtime attorney. Margaret, I'm so sorry for your loss, he said. I wanted to talk to you before the will reading. There have been some concerning changes to Robert's estate plan that I wasn't involved in. I know, I said. I found Robert's journal. His journal? I told him everything I'd found. There was a long pause. Margaret, if Robert was under undue influence when he made these changes, we might be able to challenge them. But it's difficult to prove. We'd need evidence that Derek manipulated him, coerced him while he was incapacitated. I have Robert's journal, I said. What else do I need? Medical records showing Robert's mental state. Testimony from his doctors about his capacity to make decisions. Evidence of Derek's financial pressure. It's a long shot, but I want to try, I said. Over the next week, I became a detective. I contacted Robert's oncologist, who confirmed that the chemotherapy drugs and pain medications Robert was on could cause significant cognitive impairment. I gathered bank statements showing Derek's repeated requests for money. I found emails between Derek and that attorney Mitchell that were damning. One email in particular, sent just 3 months before Robert died, got him to sign the deed transfer today. He was pretty out of it, barely read it. All the accounts should be switched over by next month. Once the old man's gone, we'll have full control. My hands shook with rage as I printed it out. But I didn't tell Derek or Ashley what I'd found. I let them think they'd won. The day of the will reading arrived. I walked into Mr. Patterson's conference room at exactly 2 o'clock. Derek and Ashley were already there, sitting on one side of the long mahogany table. Brandon Mitchell sat beside them, that smug smile on his face. That's when I saw the smirk. Derek's smile of anticipated victory. Mr. Patterson entered, carrying a file folder. He was 73, white-haired, and had the bearing of a man who'd seen everything in his 45 years of practicing law. "Thank you all for coming," he said, sitting down. "We're here for the reading of Robert James Thornton's will." "Let's make this quick," Derek said. "We all know what it says." Mr. Patterson looked at him over his reading glasses. "Do we?" He opened the folder and pulled out a document. "This is Robert's will, dated March 15th, 2010, 14 years ago. It was never superseded by a valid subsequent will." "What?" Derek sat up straight. "That's not right." He updated it. "I have documents. You have documents that you pressured a dying man to sign while he was under the influence of medications that impaired his judgment," Mr. Patterson said calmly. "Those documents are being challenged as the product of undue influence." Brandon Mitchell jumped in. "You can't prove that. Robert was competent when he signed those documents." Mr. Patterson slid a paper across the table. "This is a letter from Dr. Sarah Chen, Robert's oncologist. She states that at the time Robert signed those documents, he was on a combination of chemotherapy, drugs, and opioid pain medications that would have significantly impaired his decision-making capacity. She further states that she warned the family about this, specifically warning Derek not to have Robert make major financial decisions during this time." Ashley's face went pale. I remembered that conversation. Dr. Chen had pulled Derek aside after one of Robert's appointments. I'd thought it was just about Robert's care. "Here's another interesting document," Mr. Patterson continued, pulling out more papers. Email correspondence between Derek Thornton and Brandon Mitchell, discussing how to get the old man to sign before he changes his mind. "How did you get those?" Brandon's voice cracked slightly. "Discovery," Mr. Patterson smiled. "Margaret filed a challenge to the estate transfers yesterday. We subpoenaed all relevant communications." Derek turned to me, his face red. "You sneaky." "Careful," Mr. Patterson warned. "We're on the record." He returned to the will. Robert's valid will from 2010 leaves the entirety of his estate to his beloved wife Margaret, with a bequest of $100,000 to his son Derek, to be distributed when Derek turns 40 or upon Robert's death, whichever comes later. "That's insane," Derek shouted. "I'm his son, his blood." "And Margaret was his wife for 42 years, Mr. Patterson said. "A wife who cared for him every day of his illness while you visited twice." I pulled out my own folder then. My hands were steady now. "I have something to add," I said quietly. I slid Robert's journal across the table. "This is your father's journal from the last 3 years of his life. I think you should read the entry from May 22nd, the one where he describes how you told him I never really loved him, that I was only after his money. Derek didn't touch it. Or maybe," I continued, "you'd prefer to read about the $85,000 gambling debt Robert paid off for you, or the entry where he realized what you'd done but was too weak to fix it." I looked directly at Ashley. "Here's what's going to happen. Every single document you had Robert sign while he was incapacitated is void. The house is mine. The investment accounts are mine. The life insurance goes to the beneficiary named in the valid policy, which is me. You can't do this, Ashley whispered. I already did, I said. But here's the interesting part. Robert's will includes a clause about what happens if anyone contests it or tries to manipulate it. There's an interim clause, look it up, that says anyone who challenges the will or who attempted to unduly influence Robert forfeits their entire inheritance. Mr. Patterson nodded. Which means, Derek, you don't get even the $100,000 bequest. You get nothing. This is elder abuse, Derek shouted at me. You're stealing from me. No, I said softly. You stole from your father while he was dying. You manipulated him, confused him, made him doubt the woman who loved him. You took advantage of his illness for your own greed. I stood up, gathering my papers. I spent 42 years building a life with Robert. I earned every single dollar of that estate by being his partner, his nurse, his best friend. You spent 42 years being his son, and you couldn't even bother to visit him while he was dying. Brandon Mitchell was typing frantically on his phone. We'll fight this. We'll take you to court. Please do, Mr. Patterson said. I'd love to put Derek on the stand and have him explain these emails, and the gambling debts, and the coercion of a cancer patient. The district attorney might find that testimony interesting too. Derek's face went white. The DA? Elder financial abuse is a crime in New York, Mr. Patterson explained. If you'd like to pursue this, we'll be happy to refer the matter to law enforcement. The room went silent. I think we're done here, Derek finally said, standing up. This isn't over. Yes, I said. It is. They left. Ashley was crying. Derek slammed the door hard enough to rattle the window. Mr. Patterson looked at me. Are you okay? I will be, I said. And I was. The estate was settled according to Robert's valid 2010 will. I got the house in Westchester, worth $3.2 million. I got the investment accounts, totaling $2.1 million. I got the life insurance payout of $850,000. I got the lake house worth $340,000. All told, Robert's estate was worth approximately $6.8 million, and it all came to me. Derek and Ashley tried to fight it. They hired 3 different attorneys over the next 6 months. Each one looked at the evidence, Robert's journal, the medical records, the emails, the timeline of the documents, and told them the same thing. They had no case. The final blow came when the New York State Attorney General's office opened an investigation into Brandon Mitchell for elder exploitation. Turns out Derek and Ashley weren't his only clients he'd helped manipulate dying family members. Mitchell lost his law license and faced criminal charges. Derek never went to prison, but the investigation made the papers. His consulting business, such as it was, collapsed when potential clients Googled his name and found articles about the elder abuse scandal. As for me, I stayed in my house, the one I'd made a home for 42 years. I got my master's degree in nursing at 66, something I'd always wanted to do. I used some of Robert's life insurance money to establish a scholarship fund in his name for nursing students at the college where I got my degree. I also set up a foundation to help families spot and prevent elder financial abuse. We've helped 37 families in the past 2 years, teaching them the warning signs, connecting them with attorneys, providing resources. I think Robert would have approved. Derek called me once, about a year after everything was settled. It was 3 a.m. He was drunk. You destroyed my life, he slurred into the phone. No, I said calmly. You destroyed your relationship with your father all by yourself. You had every advantage in life. A father who loved you, a stepmother who raised you, every opportunity money could buy, and you chose greed. He was my father, and I was your mother, I said. For 42 years, I was your mother. But you made it very clear I wasn't family. So, here we are. I hung up. I haven't heard from him since. Last month, I had lunch with my friend Patricia, who'd gone through something similar with her stepchildren. We were at a cafe in town when she asked me if I ever regretted fighting back. Never, I said. For too long, I let people treat me like I didn't matter, like my 42 years of love and sacrifice were worth less than blood. But I mattered to Robert. I know that now. He loved me. He just got confused at the end, and Derek took advantage of that. What if Derek had won? Patricia asked. What if the court had sided with him? Then I would have lost the money, I said. But I wouldn't have lost myself. I stood up for what was right. I fought for the man I loved, even after he was gone. That matters more than any inheritance. Though, I'll be honest, getting to keep the $6.8 million didn't hurt. I'm 68 now. I live alone in my beautiful home, surrounded by 45 years of memories. I volunteer at the hospital 3 days a week. I travel when I want to. I garden. I read. I spend time with friends who value me. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, I sit in Robert's office and reread his journal. Not the painful parts about Derek's manipulation, but the earlier entries. The ones where he wrote about our trips to Italy, our anniversary dinners, the morning coffee we shared on the porch every Sunday. Margaret is the best thing that ever happened to me, he wrote on our 35th anniversary. I don't tell her enough, but she's my whole world. She deserves everything. I did deserve everything, and now I have it. Not because I wanted his money, but because I loved him. And because I finally learned that sometimes the quiet ones, the ones everyone underestimates, are the ones you should be most careful about crossing. Derek learned that lesson the hard way. And every time I sit on my porch, in the home that's mine alone, I think about that smirk on his face in the attorney's office, the certainty that he'd won, the shock when he realized he'd lost everything. Justice isn't always swift, but when it comes, it's so sweet.